Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Year of the Demons. Now, this is, what are we in, like November right now? So, we are so close to being done with the year, so close to being done with demons, yet we still have not crossed the finish line yet. And with this month, we are reviewing Demonia, which, you know what? It's not bad. There you go. It's like the best praise I've given to these demon sequels. It's not bad. So Demonia was released in 1990, I believe. It was supposed to be released in theaters, but instead it was released directed to video. So I'm not entirely certain of like the exact release date because it would have been in Italy first. But one thing of note is that this is actually by Lucio Fulci, and it's the only movie that I've reviewed so far by Lucio Fulci. And if you don't know that guy's name, then you really need to look into Italian cinema because he is one of the greats. I would actually go so far and say that Fulci is the reason I like Italian cinema, because the very first one I've ever seen was called Zombie, or Zombie 2, as you might want to call it, and it was just amazing. It was honestly one of the best zombie movies I've ever seen. It has the best siege I've ever seen in a zombie movie, where people are holed up somewhere and zombies are just like sieging into the area. It was probably the best I've seen like that. And I can't say enough good things about it. Maybe one day I'll even review that movie, because Shane and I kind of want to review like maybe some of the Ramiro's Dead series and all the spin-offs from it, which is a huge undertaking that I'm not sure I want to commit my life to. But we're talking about Demonia! So, this movie kind of hopped onto that like nunsploitation phase that was going on, and I don't think there's a single good example of a nunsploitation movie out there, so this didn't age well. I didn't really care for that whole angle to it. And you can tell this is a director who's probably a little past his prime, sad to say. I think it's a good movie, and I applaud him to continuously making these horror movies, trying to find something to hit the mainstream, but sadly this wasn't it. And I think the biggest reason for that is that it's just very middle of the road. It's not great, but again, it's not bad. That's why I'm probably praising it more than it deserves, because it's finally a non-bad movie in these demon sequels. Well, let's just get into the movie. So the movie is obviously about nuns. So it starts off in the 15th century, and it just shows a bunch of nuns being like carted off by a mob, and then they're crucified with nails to like their gut and their hands, and then they just die. Then we fast forward to present time, which again would have been like 1990. And it shows like this woman having like a seance, and then she envisioned these nuns, and then she passes out. And right off the bat, I'm completely confused and I have no idea what's going on, which is something that is prevalent in this movie, to say the least. There are so many dream sequences that, like, I've like stared at them, I watched them every round, a couple of them, and they still just didn't make sense to me, which, again, dream sequences don't need to make sense, but it just felt pointless. I didn't even see like what they were trying to add up to. Anyways, I digress. Going back to this woman whose name's Lisa, I believe. She is kind of like an archaeologist, or at least like interested in it, and she goes along with her former professor and some other people to, I believe, Sicily, yeah. So modern day Sicily, which is where all this took place back in the 15th century, was the nuns being like crucified at this monastery. And while they're there to explore this ancient Greek ruins, but all the townsfolk are like, oh, you better not go into that monastery that's up on the hill. And, you know, Lisa then goes into the monastery up on the hill, and then the townfolk get mad, but it's more so a supernatural angle. Like, there's times they kind of want you to think that maybe the townsfolk are killing people because they're getting too close to this curse they don't want to have be let loose upon them. But then they just kind of like get rid of that angle and just go straight for like the, oh yeah, no, this is definitely like a supernatural. The nuns are bad people and they're trying to kill people. There's some elements of like a giallo idea. It's like they try to make you think that different people might be the killers, but again, I would say too early in the movie they kind of throw that idea out the window and they just go straight for like the supernatural angle, which I wouldn't say it's bad that like there's like these demon-like nuns that are killing people for an occult reason, but I feel like they played their cards too soon. if that makes any sense. I feel like they should have held on to that. Is it supernatural? Is it people killing people? Angle more. But you know what the best thing about this movie is? The kills, by far. Some of them are just kind of ho-hum. Other ones have like kind of laughably bad effects. But overall, this is kind of like a breath of fresh air because I didn't really expect to see good kills like this in any demon movies. But like here we are. Let's see if I can try to remember some of these kills. Man, there's a lot in this movie. Alright, so some of like the more like non-important ones are obviously like all the nuns that get like crucified in the beginning. And then there's also someone who gets shot by a spear gun, by like a disembodied pair of boobs. There's 2 guys that fall off in the monastery from a room and like they just get impaled on something. I don't know. It's not really that clear what's going on. Some people get stabbed mid-nun orgy, which is quality cinema. Let's see, a baby gets burned alive. Bunch of cats kind of claw out this woman's eyes, which is very laughable because you can tell they're real cats in some shots, and then when it's on her, they're fake cats, and then just like it's like someone just has a cat and just like rubbing it near their face, just a little bit off camera like that. It honestly, like the effects on the eyes look good when they rip out the eyes, but like the actual cats themselves look awful. So it's kind of like a really funny like contrast between the two. And then you get into some more like cool ones where someone gets a meat hook to the neck after being pounded by a huge chunk of meat. I feel like none of this is making sense as I say it. Then he gets his tongue like ripped out a little bit and then nailed to a chopping block. We also follow that up with probably the most confusing scene I had in the movie, which this little boy is being taken away by this nun in white, which might be a ghost, might not, you don't know. And the father's chasing after him, but like at the same time, it terribly dubbed. Like you can tell the child's voice is not an actual child saying it, which is I feel like a very Italian thing to do. And it just kind of feels dreamlike, even though I know it's not a dream. And then all of a sudden, during this chase, it would cut between the two. It was the dad running after the little kid. And then the little kid breaks away from the nun and runs to the dad. But then all of a sudden, the dad's in this elaborate trap where like his hands are tied on the ground, but then his legs are up in the air, and then like they get pulled, and the guy just gets pulled apart, which actually looks really good. The intestines inside ripping out of his stomach were sweet, but it's like, why was he all of a sudden in that trap? When mere seconds ago he was chasing after his kid. I rewound it 3 times thinking that maybe I saw it wrong, but no, I still don't get how that happened. And then to pretty much finish that up, you know, I don't think I want to spoil it because this is actually a movie I would recommend seeing for the effects alone. So there is like one final death at the end, but honestly, it was a passable movie. Fulci really wanted this to be kind of like his return to theatrical horror, which sadly it wasn't. He would then go theatrical in a future movie, but basically after that, it was just, his career was basically over, and then he died at, I believe, the age of 69, which is old yet still young in a way. He probably still had more stuff in him, and it's sad to see that he wasn't able to like fully realize his potential in his like post-career after his huge run in like the late 70s to mid 80s, I want to say. So it was a little disappointing to hear about that. The DVD I got is actually a pretty common one I got on eBay. You can also find a copy from Severn Films, which come out with some of the best stuff I've seen. But if you don't really care about having it on physical, which, yeah, you might not unless you're a Fulci fan, I would probably go with Tubi. Apparently that free like streaming site has it at the moment. See it. I would recommend it. It's a very passable Italian film. It's better than most of the stuff I've been talking about, and I do recommend it. It's kind of incoherent at times. It has effects that are both good and kind of laughable. And every now and then, it doesn't look good. Like, sometimes it's just not fun to look at. Even Fulci said that, like, one of the things he doesn't like about it is just it had bad photography. And, you know, I can kind of see it. It doesn't really take advantage of, like, it's shot on location. Like, it was in Sicily where it was shot in, like, this very, like, decrepit place. And it just doesn't take full advantage of, like, the stuff it had on display, which is disappointing because it's sometimes in these Italian films it's kind of good to look at, like, the locale that they're at. So, Do I recommend Demonia? Yes, I do. Otherwise known as New Demons. That's the only reason I connected it to demons. Wait. No, there is a second way that I connected it to demons. So, when I was watching this, one of the angry townsfolk, he looked familiar. And I was like, I've seen this guy before. He is the same guy who played one of the main punks in the first Demons movie that, like, I don't know, just walk into the theater and die. And then he also played a security guard in the second Demons movie, and he doesn't do anything really in that either. He does so much more in this movie than all the others, but it's an actor that I recognize from the Demons 1 and 2, so, you know, there's a connection there. Yep, he alone makes this the New Demons. Alright guys, so next month will be the final entry in Year of the Demons, and I'm so happy. I'm ready to get to this because the movie we have up last is called Cemetery Man, or otherwise known as Demons 95, which not a single person alive calls it that. But for the sake of this Demons review, I'm calling it Demons 95. Cemetery Man, though, is known to be a classic in the zombie genre. Notice I said zombie and not, demons. But it's supposed to be a classic. I'm so excited to watch it. I paid a lot of money for it on DVD, and I bet I could have found it streaming for way cheaper. And I'm really excited to watch it, and then review it, and then hopefully you guys can seek it out too if you haven't, because I hope this is a great way to end this Year of the Demons, because it has gone downhill, and we are just like on a little speed bump right now. Hopefully we're going up, but you never know. It's Demons. You could go straight down. All kidding aside, I'm very excited to watch Cemetery Man, so tune in next month for an actual decent review. Hopefully. Fingers crossed. I'm really bad at these, aren't I?